Good morning, and welcome to the 2021 Southampton Village Veterans Day service. We are blessed to have such magnificent weather and such a beautiful location here on Lake Agawam. We gather today because it is such a proper thing to do, to say thank you to those who have defended America, preserving our freedom, and defeating the evil forces of history. On behalf of our committee, Commander Bob Grisnick, Mayor Jesse Warren, and Trustees Gina Arrest, Joe McLaughlin, Robin Brown, Roy Stevenson, and Village Justice Barbara Wilson, we thank you for joining us today. We also thank the Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and the Patriot Club of Southampton High School and other community members who once again placed the American flag on veterans' graves in our local cemeteries, a very important part of our Memorial Day and Veterans Day tradition. Originally known as Armistice Day, Veterans Day was first observed on November 11th, 1919, marking the first anniversary of the end of World War I. In 1926, Congress passed a resolution for November 11th to be recognized annually, and the date became a national holiday in 1938. We celebrate Veterans Day at 11 a.m. on the 11th day of the 11th month because it signifies the cessation of hostilities between Germany and the Allied powers, ending World War I. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the invocation by Reverend Michael Smith of the Shinnecock Presbyterian Church. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and the singing of our national anthem.
We've been blessed with a gorgeous creation day, and we give thanks to the Almighty for providing us with such a gorgeous day to celebrate and give thanks to our veterans. So let us pause for just a moment of prayer. One nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. And we gather before your powerful presence this day, Creator God, to give you thanks for the beauty and bounty of this day. We gather together to give you thanks for those brave women and men who have sought to preserve and protect this land. As we prepare to celebrate them and their accomplishments, we ask that you would continue to surround each of them with your unconditional love and your amazing grace. Surround each of us here gathered with your unconditional love and your amazing grace. And be with us all as we prepare to celebrate them and the sacrifices that they have made on our behalf. And hear this, our prayer, for we offer it in the name of all that is good and beautiful. In the name of the Holy and Great Spirit we pray, and together we say, Amen and Aho. And I'm not certain he's here with us. I spoke to his daughter yesterday, but I want to acknowledge Mr. Leuben Hunter, who is the oldest living member of the Shinnecock Nation and perhaps the oldest veteran on Long Island. He's 104 years old. And so we celebrate him and give thanks to him. And in the words of Tiny Tim, God bless us one and all.
Thank you, Michael. What an incredible gentleman Leuben Hunter is. And is he here today? Does anybody see him? No? Anyway, We just thank Lubin for all of his service, not only to the United States of America, but to the Shinnecock Nation and to our community of Southampton. Now, if you all please...
And also the CBO, he was a long-time member.
He was a longtime member of the Combined Veterans Organization, and he would never miss a Memorial Day or Veterans Day event here in the village. So if you will now all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing, and detail, please present arms as the Voices of Southampton from Southampton High School sing our national anthem. Thank you very much, ladies. If you're wondering this morning why there are 13 chairs up front along with law enforcement officers standing behind each one, that will be explained to you all very shortly. In the meantime, my honor to introduce the mayor of the Village of Southampton, Mayor Jesse Warren.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Veterans Day. We are blessed with a beautiful day in which to celebrate and to honor all of our veterans who has served our country and our community, as well as those who are currently still serving. Before we begin, I wanted to once again thank Vice Chair Bill Jones and Chair of the Veterans Affairs Commission, Mr. Bob Grisnick. Also wanted to thank Reverend Michael Smith, Peter Nikolich for his work. I wanted to thank Southampton High School and their team who performed before us, as well as our Board of Trustees who are here today, Deputy Mayor Gina Resta, Trustee Roy Stevenson, Trustee Joe McLaughlin, and Trustee Robin Brown, as well as Justice Barbara Wilson, as well as everybody who came out today to help us put together this wonderful event. I also wanted to thank our Department of Public Works, particularly our Parks Department, Supervisor as well, Steve Phillips, who helped make sure that today is a very special day, well organized and well put together. So, as we know, I also wanted to acknowledge Officer Lubold and her father, Mr. Lubold as well, who helped organize the 13 chairs before us today, as well as our law enforcement community who's out standing behind with American flags representing the 13 fallen Americans who lost their lives courageously in Afghanistan. So as we know, Veterans Day began on Armistice Day to celebrate the end of World War I. So with that in mind, we just wanted to everyone have a look behind us and to see the World War I memorial that is so very important to all Southampton residents and community members, and in particular our veterans. So we wanted to update everybody on the efforts to restore this wonderful monument. As you can see, the elements, the weather, and time has had quite an effect on this monument. So we have engaged VHB engineers to help us put together a plan to restore the monument. I also wanted to acknowledge and thank our Deputy Mayor, Gina Resta, who has worked on a letter to help us fundraise. So a letter has been sent out to all Southampton Village residents. And then in addition, there is a GoFundMe page set up, and our goal is to raise $400,000 in order to help repair and restore this beautiful monument.
Go ahead, try it now.
Okay. Just continuing, trying to make sure that we have a nice, smooth day here. Thank you very much for the help. So again, we're trying to raise $400,000 to repair and restore this beautiful monument. Thanks to our Deputy Mayor, she sent out a letter to every village resident. But if anyone would like to donate, large or small, please feel free to contact Village Hall. You can donate on a GoFundMe page, and we can assist you in any way in helping donate. And we're looking forward in the near future to repair this beautiful monument that serves as a notice and an honor to all of our veterans and a recognition, especially to our local veterans who served in World War I. So today, I wanted to spend a little time on this Veterans Day and wanted to reflect on a particular quote from a 2016 Veterans Day speech at Arlington National Ceremony that was particularly moving to me, to which it says, "Whenever you doubt that courage and goodness and selflessness is possible, stop and look at a veteran. Veterans don't always go around telling stories of their heroism, so it's up to us to ask them about it and to listen and to tell those stories for them and to live our own lives in the values to which they prepared to give others." And I found that quote to be particularly moving. And as we look here today, we see veterans from across geographies who have served in wars around our globe, ranging from Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq. And we see many generations. We see Southampton High School students out here today. We see our Boy Scouts. We see our Cub Scouts. We see our police and first responders here today. And so we particularly thought that on this Veterans Day, it was important to pass along some oral history. And in particular, there's one veteran who is not here today, John Holden, who is here in both our spirit and our hearts. And Mr. Holden was here for 100 years on this earth, serving our community and our country, and was honored and respected by all. And so I had the great honor to sit down just a few days ago with Lester Holden, John Holden's son, to learn a little bit about his legacy and about his service, not just abroad in Europe during World War II, but also, and equally as important, in our community, where he was unanimously recognized as someone who was generous and giving of his time and energy, and largely just a magnanimous individual who was well respected by all and who had lifelong friends, regardless of where he was and where he traveled to. And John Holden, again, I wanted to thank Lester Holden for his help in passing on this legacy, as well as other veterans, especially Thea Fry, who helped put me in touch with some veterans as well. John was actually born right here in Southampton, just down the street on Hill Street, on the corner of Halsey Avenue. Many don't know his middle name was Irving, likely named after the Irving Hotel, which was a large 4-story hotel right across the street from where he lived, right on Hill Street and Halsey Avenue. And he grew up in Southampton and worked at his family's stationery business, Holden Stationery, which is on Main Street right next to Village Hall, which then became Silver's, and even Silver's had some artifacts, if you will, some holders and devices from that store, and then went on to serve in World War II. And many did not know Mr. Holden went and he served as an engineer, and in particular, he served in World War II overseas in England, France, and Germany, and he was part of the 16th Engineering Division and was primarily engaged in the mapping of Europe. And he had to move very quickly because the American forces were advancing, and as they were advancing, it was important for his division to make sure that the mapping was done to help the armies and other forces that were there. And as the American forces defeated German forces, they inherited some maps that needed to be translated. Those maps, we learned from his son, were more detailed. They had to be translated, but these maps often were top secret as well. But these maps were critical in the move through Europe by the United States Armed Forces. And this was an incredible duty that he had to do in quite dangerous conditions, often having bombs being dropped. They were both intimidating and dangerous, of course. And it was quite the feat to be mapping during these buzz bombs being dropped right around Europe. And one of the lessons we learned is that everywhere Mr. Holden went, he developed lifelong friends. And in particular, he had lived with the family in France, and actually kept in touch with the children and grandchildren of this family. And just about a decade and a half ago, this family actually visited us right here in Southampton. And this was one of the key themes that we really learned from Lester, that he was just such a kind and well-respected man that everywhere he went, he developed long-lasting relationships all across the world. And he came back to Southampton, and this is where he did some of his best work. He was involved with the Boy Scouts, the Southampton Rotary Club. He served as president. He was on the Rogers Memorial Library Board. He was the Southampton Village engineer. He was the village engineer of North Haven Village. He was involved with the American Legion, with the VFW. He was a big part of what was going on with the flags on the graves. And he always felt that one of the most important things he could do was support the veterans. And he was also involved with the Southampton Fresh Air Home. He served as an elder in the Southampton First Presbyterian Church. And his service was really unequaled by all. He grew up with ordinary means but became an extraordinary man. And we recognize the service of our veterans for their valor and courage, helping us stay free. But as our veterans return, we also must look to them as examples because they continue to serve our community with the utmost generosity and respect to help us and to keep us as a community together. So he actually chose not to. I'll continue with some of the oral history because, again, I would love for future generations to know about this as we want to pass along this local history. So John actually, instead of going into his family business, he became a partner in Theodore Squires in 1960. And the surveying and engineering firm is now known as Squires and Holden, which obviously does a lot of surveys throughout the Southampton and East End. And this business was initially started by Wallace Halsey before Squires took over and John got involved shortly thereafter. And one anecdote that I wanted to pass along was that nobody knew land better than John Holden. In fact, he had every detail of every piece of land memorized. He knew when the transaction was, who acquired it, when it was developed, and he spent a significant amount of time, of his own time, helping families locate their lost land. He did this at no charge to anybody. He did this out of the kindness of his own heart, and he helped out a tremendous number of families. Obviously, during this time period, we don't have the records that we have today. So Mr. Holden was incredibly helpful in helping families find and relocate their land. And we just heard from everybody, whether it was during this process or his service in every organization, that he was such an honest and honorable man, and he was appreciated widely throughout Southampton for it. And again, as son Lester said, for him, Veterans Day, he felt that it wasn't about him, but it was for honoring all the veterans that have come before him. And he never, ever wanted to take credit or receive any recognition. He always wanted to recognize those around him. But today we felt was the right opportunity to recognize him. And he also loved his family. And despite being a business owner involved in every single local organization, we learned that he always made time for his family and that he would stop at anything to be there for his children and his wife. He also enjoyed visiting his alma mater, Cornell, and he loved watching football games. And one quality that we learned about him was that in life, winning was never the most important thing. To him, it was always the qualities of honesty, work ethic, and service to the community and country that were most important. We met with fellow veteran Ray Tereski, who served during the Navy in the Korean War, and he really aptly summed up the life of John Holden And he said, if you needed him, he was always there to help you out. And he described how he remembered John's efforts by providing flags for the cemetery. And he said he was not only a good patriot, but he was an incredible person. So I'll conclude by quoting one of our famous generals, General Douglas, who also served in the Pacific during World War II, who said, "Duty, honor, and country, those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, and what you will be." And those are some of the three words we learned about John Holden as well. So today, we wanted to thank all of our veterans, our patriots, our service men and women, our law enforcement community, our first responders, and we wanted to pass down these type of lessons to the community, which can serve as guidance for us across whatever generation you're in to move forward. And in today's environment, where we are still in the midst of a pandemic, where unfortunately we often suffer from some divisions, we can learn from John Holden and his fellow veterans for bringing our community together, our country together, for serving us, for helping us, and for all that they do. And these are valuable lessons that I know I will personally take from learning a bit about Mr. Holden, and I hope that everyone here today will also take those memories and those lessons to heart. So once again, I wanted to thank all of our veterans. We wanted to celebrate everybody on this wonderful and beautiful day. And again, thank you to our veterans for your service, for your courage and heroism, and may God bless the Village of Southampton and the United States of America. Thank you very much.
John Holden's is a story that deserves to be told over and over again. A finer man I don't think I have ever met. I always enjoyed my conversations with John and his wife Bernice at their home on Elm Street, and it just felt special to be in both of their presence. I will just add to what Jesse had to say about him, and that is, I think he alluded to it, but if it weren't for John, we wouldn't know where to put the flags out on these cemeteries, because as a surveyor, he outlined for all of the cemeteries in the vicinity of Southampton and actually into Watermill, where all of the veteran graves are located, and that is no small task, I can assure you. With that, we will now have the Southampton High School Choir, under the direction of Jim Tartaglia, perform "Thank You, Soldiers." Thank you, choir. That was very beautiful. Thank you very much. Our guest speaker, Rod Lubold, was born in York, Pennsylvania in 1957, and he served for 23 years. He joined the Army as an artillery observer, and 5 years later went to helicopter flight school. After graduating from flight school, he spent the next 17 years as an air cavalry pilot, instructor pilot, standards pilot, and instrument flight examiner. And when he gets up here and you see his hat, you will recognize immediately that he's a CAV officer. He did 2 tours to Iraq, and his son Mike volunteered to serve with him during Rod's 2nd tour to Iraq. Rod retired as a Chief Warrant Officer 4 in 2007, but after retiring, he then served as a contractor in Afghanistan, teaching aviation to their military. He now lives in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania, with his gorgeous, loving wife, his words, Tracy, of 43 years. And in addition to their son, Mike, they have a daughter, Tiffany, who will be our next speaker with a special Veterans Day tribute to our fallen. As you will hear, Rod's extended family has served America for many generations. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to our guest speaker, Rod Lubold.
Good morning, everyone. What a great day to be able to pay tribute to all our veterans, past and present. My name is Rod Lubold, as you've heard, and I am honored to speak with you all today. I have the utmost respect and gratitude for all our veterans, as well as our first responders, and I thank you all for the freedoms that we enjoy and the safety that you provide and have provided by your service. I would like to focus on families today, and like most of the veterans out here, I come from a family with generations of service to our country. During my career, I also realized that all veterans are family. My maternal grandfather's brothers, 3 of them, served in World War I. My grandfather wanted to as well, and was very angry when he found out that 12-year-olds were just too young. My paternal grandfather served in World War I as well, and he lost a lung to mustard gas. My father was a fighter pilot in World War II. He flew in the South Pacific. I also had 2 uncles that served then, one in Germany as a tanker and the other one in the Navy in the South Pacific. My oldest brother served in Vietnam as a very young Marine, and his daughter served 20 years as well in the Army. My baby brother, Bill, did a tour in Germany as a tanker in the mid-'80s. I served in Desert Storm in 1990 and 91, and alongside my son Mike, we served together in Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2005 and 2006, which was his 3rd tour on active duty. My daughter now serves as a police officer here in the village, as you've heard. And I believe that our first responders share the same passion to serve and protect others as military veterans do, and they are veterans in their own right as well. After I retired in 2007, I served as a contractor in Afghanistan, teaching their military how to fly Russian Mi-17 helicopters. We also did drug interdiction missions with the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency. Later in 2009 and 2010, my son Mike and I spent a tour of almost 2 years in Iraq teaching the Rotor Wing Flight School to the young Iraqi soldiers. Throughout our history, but especially in the last 20 years, due to all these constant rotations into Iraq and Afghanistan, veterans are constantly away from home serving the interests of the United States and providing for our freedoms. The sacrifices that they make, I believe, are well understood, but the sacrifices their families make, I believe goes largely unnoticed by many Americans. Wives or husbands and the kids back home, missing that person at the dinner table, constantly worried about how their soldier's doing, parents and siblings anxiously await to hear how their soldier's doing, praying they will be safe and that they will come home. It is family that service members draw from to get their strength when they are in need. I know this as I have drawn calmness from my father's words in tenuous situations, normally when somebody's shooting at me. I've drawn strength from my children's love when I felt tired and weak. And most importantly, I felt focus, inspiration, and faith from my wife, Tracy, because she always believed in me. I have also witnessed soldiers of all ranks and services draw from their brothers and sisters in arms. We take care of each other because we are family. And it is my belief that that is why we have always been the toughest fighting force on the planet. After Pearl Harbor, my father joined the Army Air Corps so he could serve. He was underage, and he had to sign his mom's name so he could join. Once he graduated from flight school, he was assigned to the Scraping Saints, which were in the South Pacific, and he flew P-40s. His call sign was P-40 Shorty. I am taller than my father was. Little guy, okay? He used to tell me, and later on, he flew P-51s, and he really did love that airplane, and he had two quotes that he used to tell me all the time. The first one was, the 50 cal was God's gift to aviators. And the second one was, there's absolutely no substitute for horsepower. He told me once that when bad things happen, or are happening to you, you fly the airplane calmly, and until you get it back to base. I inherited that calmness from him, which I am very grateful for. Once you land, he told me, that's when your knees shake, that's when you throw up, and that's when you wet your pants. The last piece of advice he gave me before I went on my first deployment in 1990 was, you will know who you can count on when the bullets start flying. At the time, I did not understand what he meant, but over the next year, I did learn, and he was right. My son Mike, my firstborn, it's a proud moment when your son tells you he wants to be like you. It's an even prouder moment when he follows in your footsteps. The last tour on active duty was with Mike by my side. He had just returned from his second deployment. Each of those were over 1 year long. And he went to the instructor pilot course, and then he volunteered to transfer to my unit, knowing we were scheduled to go back to Iraq in just 7 months. He and I stood up a brand new air cav troop, 13 brand new graduates, 3 lieutenants, 10 young warrant officers. Mike and I were the only one that had any combat experience. I was the standards pilot at the time, so I laid out this training plan. He and I executed, we trained them, we prepped them, and we actually deployed 30 days ahead of the rest of the squadron because of that training. Mike's favorite memory during that time was we did a squadron gunnery, as we must, and he was a top gun. It was his third award, and it was his third unit. He beat me by 40 points. I was a squadron master gunner. I planned and set up and I ran that gunnery, wrote all the target handovers, knew where all the targets were. He beat me by 3 target hits in a total of 7 seconds. 7 seconds. But his reason for the pride was not that he was the top gunner or that he beat his old man, but that the closest crew to me was 420 points behind. And he told me, he said, Pop, we showed them how to get the job done. I had to pull my retirement paperwork to go on that deployment. And after that particular gunnery, I realized that all these young men that we had trained were hesitant, apprehensive, indecisive, and they were on a gunnery range. Nobody was shooting at them. And my son was going to be the only guy in that troop with combat experience. A lot of weight to bear on a young man. I couldn't sleep at night. So I'd go down, I'd watch Jay Leno at 2 in the morning, and my wife came down on the 3rd or 4th day, and she's like, what are you doing? Hey, babe, couldn't sleep. Thought I'd just come down and watch Jay Leno. She looked at me, she goes, well, why don't you just tell me you're going? I said, babe, I'm not going. I got retirement orders. So we had a discussion over, and she said, you know what? You need to go, and you need to bring all your boys home. So when Mike and I got in country, he and I flew every single mission with all our pilots for the first 40 days. Got everybody shot at, everybody in and out of trouble, and they finally figured out that they could get it done, that they could stay safe and they could go home. And they started building their own confidence, and they no longer needed ours. Okay? I would like to close with this. We all took an oath. to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I took mine 37 and a half years ago. We have never been released from that oath. Second thing is, we all gave some. Some of us gave all. And the last thing I would like to say is that greater love has no man than this, that he lays down his life for others. To all the veterans, and just as importantly, to all the family members, I salute you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rod. So, as he indicated, he has a daughter whose name is Tiffany, and I don't know whether you caught it or not, but she happens to be a police officer here in Southampton Village. And because she comes from a military family and traveled around with her mom and dad and became a part of the military community, she went to Bob Grisnick a few weeks ago and says, I have this idea. America lost 13 soldiers recently in Afghanistan, and it seems appropriate that on this Veterans Day that we might pay tribute to them. So what you see before you here is something that Tiffany put together and is just going to add a tremendous amount to our ceremony today. So we thank her, and then in conversation with her, we found out about her family, and she told us about her dad, and it just seemed right down appropriate that he would be our guest speaker. So she reached out to him, and he agreed, and that's why we have Rod here today, and that's why we have Tiffany as well. Here to support them all of these law enforcement officers, is the Acting Chief of Police of Southampton Village, Sue Hertow. Is that good? Thank you. Lieutenant Jeff Erickson from the East Hampton Village Police Department, Michael Horstman, Southampton Village PBA, and Eric Breitweiser from the Southampton Town PPA. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please, a warm welcome for Rod's daughter, Southampton Village Police Officer Tiffany LeBeau.
Good morning, and thank you so much. Again, it's an honor to be here, and I'd really like to thank Bob and Bill for entertaining this idea I had 2 weeks ago, which brings me here today. My name is Tiffany LeBeau. I'm an officer for Southampton Village Police Department. As I am not a veteran of the military, I am an Army brat, and the proud granddaughter, daughter, sister, niece, and cousin to 10 veterans. My life since the age of 2 years old was moving from base to base across the U.S. and overseas as we supported my father's career in the U.S. Army. My entire upbringing I was surrounded by servicemen and women. I saw them daily in uniform on base in the commissary and PX. I drove past formations, watched helicopters practicing maneuvers, and I will never forget watching a 5'8" female MP chase down some knucklehead kids on the base in Germany. I witnessed almost every day that call to duty and that desire to serve this great country. I watched as my brother began his journey into the military as I began my college years. Then September 11th happened, and my desire to serve became stronger. Without all of the details, I found myself choosing a career in law enforcement to be able to serve and protect my community here at home. As I began my police career, I realized that I was serving alongside soldiers, those who had given a number of years of service to our country in the military, some still currently serving, and they all continued in their call to serve here in their communities as police officers. I realized that there is a similar sense of service to our country and our community in the careers of military and police. Today is such a meaningful day for all who truly understand what it takes for someone to serve their country as a member of a U.S. military branch, and to understand that a day may come that they make the ultimate sacrifice, and still they choose to serve. I stand here, and to my right, you see these police officers from 16 agencies across Suffolk County, standing in front of 13 chairs that hold the images of 13 military soldiers we so tragically lost on August 26th in Afghanistan. I am sure I am not alone when I say that day hit hard. My heart wept for the families of those soldiers. You see, I spent many of my days and my life praying that my father and brother would make it home from their deployments and their contracts overseas. These 13 soldiers did not make it home. It is our honor here today, as veterans and police officers, to pay our respects to them, to hold them in our memory every day, that we get to walk in the freedoms built by so many who have made the ultimate sacrifice for us. I would like to thank the Commission on Veterans Patriotic Events for allowing us to be part of this ceremony. To the local Hattrick family artist Lynn Mara, her amazing portraits are displayed here today. And to the 16 police departments and their unions for coming together to honor these soldiers. I would like now to introduce the officers as they place the flag on the chair and salute these brave soldiers. U.S. Marine Corps Gunnery Sergeant and East Hampton Town Police Officer Joe Montiel with U.S. Navy Senior Petty Officer and East Hampton Town Police Officer Dennis Shea.
Right.
They will be honoring Marine Corps Staff Sergeant Darren T. Hoover, 31, Salt Lake City, Utah. U.S. Navy Ensign and Southold Town Sergeant Chris Salmon, along with U.S. Sergeant and Southold Town Police Officer Alex Chenchi, honoring Marine Corps Sergeant Johanny Rosario Picardo, 25, of Lawrence, Massachusetts. U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel and Quag Police Sergeant Jason McMunn, honoring Marine Corps Sergeant Nicole G., 23, of Sacramento, California. U.S. Army Specialist and Southampton Town Police Officer Dylan Simpson, honoring Marine Corps Corporal Hunter Lopez, 22, of Indio, California. U.S. Marine Corps Sergeant and Southampton Town Police Officer Christopher Floria, honoring Marine Corps Corporal Dagan Page, 23, of Omaha, Nebraska. U.S. Marine Corps Sergeant and Suffolk County Police Officer Angel Vera, honoring Marine Corps Corporal Humberto Sanchez, 22, of Logansport, Indiana. U.S. Air Force Master Sergeant and Riverhead Police Officer Bill Keegan, honoring Marine Corps Lance Corporal David Espinoza, 20, of Rio Bravo, Texas. U.S. Navy Second Class Petty Officer 82 and Southampton Town Police Officer Eugene Laferno, honoring Marine Corps Lance Corporal Jared Schmitz, 20, of St. Charles, Missouri. U.S. Air Force Air National Guard in the 106 Rescue Wing Technical Sergeant and New York State Trooper Brian Corso with U.S. Air Force Air National Guard Senior Airman and Southampton Village Police Detective Kimberly McMahon, honoring Marine Corps Lance Corporal Riley McCullum, 20, of Jackson, Wyoming. U.S. Air Force and Air National Guard 106 Rescue Wing Staff Sergeant, Public Affairs Specialist, and Southampton Village Dispatcher Daniel Farah, along with MTA Police Officer Frank Brusella. honoring Marine Corps Lance Corporal Dylan Marola, 20, of Rancho Cucamonga, California. Suffolk County Deputy Sheriff Investigator Sergeant Marco Calise and Sag Harbor Police Officer Scott Frankenbach. Honoring Marine Corps Lance Corporal Kareem Nikawi, 20, of Norco, California. Ashokan Police Officer Jeff Josephson and Huntington Bay Police Officer Matt Canal honoring Navy Hospitalman Maxton Soviak, 22, of Burling Heights, Ohio. Shelter Island Police Officer Anthony Rando and West Hampton Beach Police Officer Mark Yagaboski honoring Army Staff Sergeant Ryan Noss, 23, of Corryton, Tennessee. I would like to end with a moment of silence for all of the veterans who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Tiffany, and ladies and gentlemen in blue, thank you very much for your participation here today. In addition to certainly a moment of silence for the fallen, just please keep these families in your prayers as well, for they probably need it at this time, and especially with the holidays coming up, keep them in your prayers. We will have the concert band from Southampton High School under the direction of Michael Lauricio will perform a patriotic medley of Your Grand Old Flag, The Stars and Stripes Forever, and the caissons go rolling along. Now we'll take a moment to recognize those veterans, local veterans who have passed away over the past year. Frank Kandula, Richard Weinhardt, John Holden, and Fred Calise. May we have a moment of silence for these 4 soldiers. Thank you. Now singing God Bless the USA, Peter Nikolic.
If tomorrow all the things were gone I've worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I'd thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her here today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time to stand and say, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Fabulous, Peter. Thank you so very much. Please stand, if you can, for the benediction by the Reverend Michael Smith of the Shinnecock Presbyterian Church.
Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Discord and division surrounds us. There's a sense of meanness around. And so I would charge us this day, as an expression of our support for our veterans, to practice some random acts of kindness as a way of telling them that we are so grateful for their efforts on our behalf. And as we go forth from this place, may we be surrounded by the love of the Lord, the grace of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit, leave this place walking in beauty and in peace. Be well, enjoy this day, and remember a veteran as you move about your way this day. Go in peace. Shalom.
As we close this morning, I would just like to thank the Civil Air Patrol cadets who join us every Veterans Day and every Memorial Day to help us honor America's finest. So thank you, gentlemen, for being here, and the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts. And come on up here. Bring that sign up here. Let's end it with that message. That's what today is all about. It's all we want to do. You got it? All right. Stand right over here. That's all we're trying to do today. Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to living in America, we have a lot to be thankful for. And it is only right that we take the time each year to acknowledge and thank her veterans for preserving the nation. And this year, to thank our law enforcement community for its presence and its mission to serve and protect. Thank you for coming to our Veterans Day tribute. Have a great day, and God bless America.